Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, well, we're jumping into something pretty wild. Imagine this. One guy just made a massive $20 billion bet on something most top VCs openly say they don't fully get. It's a staggering amount of money, right? Pledged to a future that feels, well, pretty fuzzy for most people. But here's the really interesting part, the twist. This man, Marc Andreessen, he might actually be the only one who really sees where this is all going. He's not your usual VC just reacting to trends. No, he tends to make the trends. And back in April 2025, he did something so bold it caused this sort of quiet gasp across Silicon Valley. His firm, A16's Andreessen Horowitz, they announced this $20 billion mega fund. And look, this wasn't spread across biotech, crypto, green energy, all the usual suspects. Nope. This giant fund, it's only for artificial intelligence, exclusively. Just AI. That's it. No backup plan, no hedging. And that single-minded focus, that's what we're diving into today. Why is Andreessen making this, frankly, radical bet on AI? What does he see it not just as like an upgrade, but as something that's going to completely tear down and rebuild industries?
From scratch. What does he know that other VCs and many are quietly backing away from AI, saying they don't get it? What are they missing? And why does this $20 billion gamble make seasoned investors, genuinely nervous, even terrified? So our mission here is to give you a shortcut, a way into the thinking, the strategy, the sheer conviction behind this huge move to offer a perspective that's really challenging the way Silicon Valley usually works.
It really is a unique position he's taken. It just runs so counter to how most venture capital operates, doesn't it? Most firms are still, tied up in knots about AI ethics, or is the market really ready, or how do we deal with giants like OpenAI? Are they partners, competitors? Andreessen, he's just pushed all his chips onto a completely different square. He's playing by different rules entirely. It's less about adapting, more about dictating what comes next. Financial mindset, redefining the purpose of money.
Okay, let's unpack this right away because it's sort of key to everything else he does.
Yeah.
For most people, most of us, we think about money, especially huge sums like $20 billion. The first thought is safety, right? Protection, careful management, minimizing risk, keep it safe, capital preservation. But Andreessen, his view is just radically different. He doesn't see capital as like a shield. It's not something to just guard. For him, it's a force. He actually called it something to aim, something to fire.
Yeah, that image, capital as a weapon, almost, not a vault. That's exactly where he flips the script on traditional investing. Most investors, they're laser focused on managing the downside, looking for a calculated ROI, return on investment. You know the drill. They want steady growth, a clear path to profit. But Andreessen, he thinks in terms of maximizing inevitability.
Maximizing inevitability.
Right. It's not about dodging risks. It's about finding what he believes is this unstoppable foundational shift, in this case, AI, and then just pouring resources in to make it happen faster. He sees money as an instrument of acceleration, a tool to basically bend the future towards his vision, not just a way to make more money slowly. He wants a future here, like now.
And that whole philosophy, that way of thinking, it leads straight to this just unprecedented $20 billion AI fund. When A16's announced it, the reaction wasn't just surprise. People inside the Valley called it a quiet gasp. And it wasn't because AI was news everyone knows about AI. It was the sheer scale, the boldness, and the fact it was completely, utterly undiversified. $20 billion just for AI startups. No crypto, no biotech, none of the other hot areas. This isn't about a balanced portfolio. It's one massive single bet.
Exactly. No safety net at all. No hedging. It's just one direction, foot flat on the floor. And that's what really makes it stand out. It wasn't caution. It wasn't even diversifying within AI, spreading bets across different approaches. It was just pure, raw belief. Belief in AI is the defining thing for our time. He seems to have this clarity about where things are going, not just where they are now. And for him, AI is that path. It's inevitable and all-consuming. It's a thesis built entirely on conviction, not just crunching numbers.
Okay, and here's where it gets really interesting and maybe a bit uncomfortable for traditional finance types. Andreessen's key question isn't the usual, okay, what's the ROI here? Instead, he asks something way more provocative. What's the cost of not doing this? That just flips the whole risk-reward thing on its head, doesn't it? He's not sitting around waiting for AI companies to turn a profit or for regulators to sort everything out or even for, finished products ready for market. He's funding founders who have what he calls vision and velocity. People who build like history is chasing them.
Yeah, and if you connect that to the bigger picture, it points to this deep conviction that the opportunity cost, the cost of sitting on the sidelines, letting someone else shape the future, that cost is way bigger than the risk of investing big and early. He operates from this idea that the biggest mistake isn't betting too much or too soon. It's missing the boat entirely on a massive paradigm shift.
Right.
This isn't about small wins. It's about getting a piece of what he thinks is the absolute foundation of tomorrow's economy. He's looking for entrepreneurs running on their own internal clock, the sense of urgency, not waiting for market signals or ticking investor boxes.
And this mindset, this total commitment, that's what really spooks the traditional VCs. It kind of breaks the unwritten rule of modern investing. Don't bet too big, don't go in too early, and definitely never, ever bet the farm on one single category, especially one that's still kind of unproven. But Marc Andreessen, he's doing exactly that. He's putting his firm's reputation, a huge pile of cash, not just on one company, but on one single irreversible trend, as he calls it, AI.
And the potential reward, if he's right, it goes way beyond just making tons of money. It's about actually shaping the future before anyone else really gets a look in. It's being there at the very beginning, influencing how it's all built, the direction it takes. That's a level of ambition that just transcends normal business metrics. It's about legacy. It's almost about shaping civilization.
He said something once that really nails his whole thesis. He said, we're investing on the thesis that everything will be rebuilt because of AI. And he didn't say improved or optimized. He said rebuilt, that one word, rebuilt. That changes everything. It completely reframes what venture capital is even about. It's not about chasing small improvements anymore. It's about spotting and catching these massive revolutions before they properly start.
And that right there, that's the core fear you hear echoing around Silicon Valley. They just don't know if they have the stomach for that kind of belief, that level of just going all in, that kind of willingness to tear things down and rebuild. So they're left wrestling with this really uncomfortable question. What if he's not crazy? What if he's just early? This isn't just another investment they can shrug off. It's a fundamental challenge to how they think, how they operate. It questions their own courage, their own foresight. 2, career strategy and wealth building. He doesn't pick industries. He picks eras.
When you look back at Marc Andreessen's career, it's not just about picking winning companies. It's more like he consistently picks winning decades. He builds decades. I mean, think about it. He was just 22 when he co-created Netscape. That wasn't just some software. It was the browser that basically opened up the internet for millions, right? Made it usable. And remember what it was like back then. The internet wasn't obvious. It was weird, risky, unproven. Most people couldn't explain it, let alone invest in it. But Andreessen, he just got it. He saw where things were headed. Didn't need everyone else to agree.
That's the pattern, exactly. He didn't pick the web browser industry. He picked the internet era. He made his fortune not by, tweaking spreadsheets or finding small edges in existing markets. He did it by sensing, almost like radar, when these huge tectonic shifts were about to happen, when the basic way we live and work was about to fundamentally change.
Right.
And now, here we are in 2025, and he clearly sees another one of those shifts coming. Only this time, he thinks it's going to be like 100 times bigger than the internet.
So what does that track record tell us about this $20 billion AI fund? It means his vision isn't just about finding the next hit app or, some breakout startup. He's aiming way higher. He wants to own the foundation, the actual infrastructure of what he believes is the next layer of civilization. He's really clear on this. AI, for him, isn't just a product. It's not a feature set. It's a platform layer for the whole 21st century. He compares it to, like, electricity or the internet itself, something that touches everything, but no single company really owns it in that foundational sense.
Which raises a really big question, doesn't it? How many VCs are actually thinking on that level, that foundational infrastructure level? Most are naturally looking for the next big application. The thing that solves a problem today makes money now.
Yeah, the immediate use case.
Exactly. He's looking for the underlying physics of the new economy. He's planting his flag right at the source code, so to speak. When he says investing in AI, he really means we're getting in at the absolute ground floor of tomorrow's entire economic system. That's just a totally different game, a different level of ambition altogether.
And like you said, he's playing that game on a completely different clock than most other VCs, most firms.
Yeah.
They're still stuck in these endless debates, right? AI ethics panels, is the market really mature yet? Who's a friend? Who's a foe, like OpenAI? They're looking for the safe way in, stable returns, predictable growth that looks good on the quarterly reports. Andreessen, though, he's not looking for safe. He's looking for inevitable. It's not waiting for everyone else to agree. It's a different game, different timeline, period.
And that's what makes other VCs so uneasy, where they see huge, maybe unacceptable risk. He just sees momentum gathering speed. They're waiting for certainty, for all the data points to line up for someone else to prove it works.
While he's already moving.
He moves purely on conviction. He's not trying to make a clever, safe bet in the old sense. He's trying to basically buy the future while it's still being formed, while it's still, in his view, massively undervalued. Long before everyone else catches on. It's like he's not just playing chess, he's designing a whole new game on a board nobody else has seen yet.
He has this saying, this mantra he repeats. The greatest fortunes are built by being right and being early. That idea seems to drive his whole career, and it's definitely the engine behind this $20 billion fund. It's not just about getting richer, though I'm sure that's part of it. It's about positioning. He wants A16Z to be there right at the start, the architects, when this new AI economy kicks off.
And for the rest of Silicon Valley, that kind of focus is deeply unsettling, because suddenly they realize they're not just competing with Andreessen's money, which is a lot. They're competing with his vision, his almost prophetic foresight that just seems to operate on a different level. It's a challenge that many of them aren't even equipped to really understand, let alone counter. How do you compete with someone who's already living in the future you're still trying to figure out? 3. Success habits and unique behaviors. He doesn't back ideas. He backs obsessions.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit from the money side. Let's talk about how Andreessen actually picks the founders he backs. Because it's pretty unique, even unconventional. He's not swayed by the perfect business plan or a slick product demo or even like pages of market research. What he's looking for is, well, founders who are just obsessed. Like so obsessed they can't sleep, they won't quit, and they just cannot stop talking about the thing they're building.
Yeah, and for him, that's not just a nice-to-have quality. It's the only thing he thinks reliably predicts resilience when things inevitably go wrong. And let's face it, in the world of AI right now, chaotic, high stakes, changing by the minute resilience is everything.
Absolutely.
He says he needs to feel the founder's urgency, that raw, relentless drive. Needs to feel it like a fire in the room before he'll even think about writing a check. It's almost like an emotional read, you know? Not just looking at the numbers on a page. He's looking for a certain kind of productive madness.
There's a really great example of this. His super early backing of XAI, Elon Musk's AI thing. I mean, think about it. At the time, XAI had literally nothing. No product, no revenue, barely even a public strategy. It was more like a declaration of intent than a company. But Andreessen saw something else entirely. He didn't see a normal business case. He saw, and he used these words, a moral case.
A moral case.
Yeah. He felt Musk wasn't just launching another AI tool. He was, in Andreessen's eyes, kind of declaring war on the idea of centralized AI control, pushing for a more open, decentralized future for it. And for Marc, who has this deep belief in decentralization and, well, freedom, that resonated. He saw Musk's conviction as unshakable.
He's even said, quite directly, we invest in founders who feel a moral obligation to solve this. And notice that word, obligation. It's not just a desire or a dream or even ambition, it's an obligation.
That's a powerful word.
It really is. Because it implies the founder isn't just in it to win or make money. They're in it because they feel they have to do it. Like they can't not do it. It's almost an existential thing for them. And that's the level of internal drive, that almost spiritual commitment that Andreessen bets on. It's an incredibly high bar. It filters out almost everyone who isn't totally consumed.
And this is where he just takes a completely different path from other VCs. They want evidence, right? Hard data. They want detailed burn rates. How fast are you spending cash? Unit economics. What's the profit per customer? Market sizing reports, revenue projections, all that stuff. Andreessen's, he wants intensity. He seems to believe something you can't really put on a spreadsheet, that when the world's changing this fast, it's not always the smartest team that wins, or the one with the most funding. It's the one that just won't break.
Yeah, so he's naturally drawn to the outliers, the misfits, the ones who challenge how things are normally done, the ones with what he cheekily calls conspiracy theory energy, you know, the people who sound kind of crazy until suddenly they're proven right.
Right, those types.
He even calls these founders alpha mutants, people whose brains are just wired differently, who have this unusual capacity for belief and resilience. These aren't the folks who pivot easily when things get tough or the market shifts. No, they double down. Their conviction is like their North Star in all the chaos.
And this filter, this way of looking for founders, it leads to what sounds like a pretty brutal test. He doesn't just ask, can this team execute the plan? He asks something much deeper, much more revealing. Would they build this, even if no one gave them any money?
Wow.
If the answer feels like a no, he's out. instantly. But if it's a clear, visceral yes, then he bets, and he bets huge.
Now, to a lot of investors, especially the traditional finance folks, this looks completely reckless. It goes against pretty much every rule of risk management and due diligence. But for Andreessen, it's the only kind of logic that makes sense in a world he sees as fundamentally irrational and changing at warp speed. Because, look, when you're funding the future, betting on these huge shifts, you're not just investing in a company or a product. You're investing in someone's unwavering, maybe even slightly unhinged obsession. And sometimes, especially in these really messy, transformative moments, that pure obsession is the only thing tough enough to survive the fire, push through all the obstacles, and actually win in the end. It's like a belief in sheer willpower. 4. Power thinking and social influence. He doesn't wait for consensus. He manufactures it.
Okay, so beyond the money and how he picks founders, Andreessen has this other really distinct, really powerful tool, social influence. But he doesn't just, follow public opinion or wait for people to agree. He actively engineers it. He doesn't follow the narrative. He writes it.
Yeah, and we saw this play out so clearly back in October 2023. Remember, at that time, most of Silicon Valley was kind of tangled up in these cautious debates. AI regulation, existential risk, doom scenarios, all the hand-wringing that can really slow things down.
Right, paralysis by analysis sometimes.
Exactly. And then Andreessen just drops this 5,000-word manifesto out of nowhere, landed like a thunderclap, called the Techno-Optimist Manifesto, and it was not subtle, not at all.
Yeah, I remember that. In it, he just flat out declared things like, we believe technology is the glory of human ambition and achievement. And we believe AI will save lives, increase prosperity, and expand what it means to be human. It wasn't just defending AI. It felt like a battle cry, like drawing a line in the sand. You're either a builder or a doubter. Choose a side.
And that one piece, that manifesto, it didn't just state his view. It completely reframed the whole public conversation about AI almost overnight. Suddenly, techno-optimism wasn't just some niche idea. It became this rallying point, this flag for a new wave of founders and investors who were just tired of all the fear and caution.
And that's the real genius of how he uses influence. He doesn't wait for agreement. He crafts a vision so bold, so confident, that other people either get on board or they start feeling like they're the ones at its step, like they're missing something big. It's pure narrative control.
And you see it in how he operates, right? Most VCs are pretty quiet, working behind the scenes, building networks discreetly. Marc plays out in the open. He tweets constantly, writes long essays, does podcasts, debates people publicly, even people who strongly disagree with him. He gets the underlying logic, I think. In today's world, where narratives drive so much, attention is capital. Influence is leverage. And whoever owns the story, well, they often end up attracting the best deals, the best founders. They own the deal flow. Which is exactly why this $20 billion AI fund isn't just a financial tool, it's also a cultural weapon, a psychological one. It sends this incredibly loud, unmistakable message to the entire tech world and beyond. This is where the future's going. Get with the program, commit fully, or you're going to be left behind. It's aggressive, it's confident, and it forces everyone else, competitors, partners, critics, to react, to rethink their own stance.
So how has the rest of the VC world reacted? You said they were shaken.
Shaken is a good word, yeah. And it's not necessarily because they all disagree with him about AI's potential in the long run. It's more that they suddenly realize they don't control the frame anymore. Andreessen has flipped the script. He's changed the game. He's made it so that not investing heavily in AI now feels, well, it feels like denial, like betting against electricity back in the 1890s. Or maybe worse, like saying the internet was just a fad in the early 90s.
Wow, that's quite a position to put your competitors in.
It is, and that's what really scares them deep down. It's not just the fear that he might be right about AI itself that's scary enough. It's the deeper, more unsettling fear that he's already changed what right even means in this new era. He's moved the goalposts. Because in this high-stakes game of influence, shaping where things go next, Marc Andreessen isn't just playing. He's the one writing the rules. He dictates the terms. He doesn't follow the market. He makes the market. V-crisis strategy and long-term game, even if AI fails, he still wins.
Okay, so let's dig into this paradox, the sort of ultimate safety net in Andreessen's strategy. He's famously not afraid of individual companies failing. I mean, that's baked into venture capital, right? What he's afraid of, apparently, is missing the moment, missing a huge fundamental shift, a generational change. And that really explains why this $20 billion AI bet isn't just about making money. It's about positioning, deeply about positioning.
Yeah, that connection back to his core principle, be early, be loud, be relentless. It's absolutely critical here. It's a strategy built to ride these massive waves, these inflection points, almost regardless of whether every single boat makes it to shore. For him, the biggest risk isn't that AI won't work eventually, it's that someone else will own the core infrastructure when it does. That's the real strategic fear driving this enormous bet, preventing that outcome.
And he knows, probably better than anyone, how high the failure rate is in VC, especially with something as cutting edge as AI. He fully expects, I'm sure, that many, maybe even most of the AI startups he's funding now will just disappear. They'll fold. Some will pivot into something completely different. Many will burn through millions and have nothing to show for it. He's seen it all before. .com bust, crypto winters.
But he also gets something that maybe the rest of the industry sometimes forgets or just doesn't grasp with enough, well, conviction. It only takes just one genuine breakthrough, one OpenAI, one Anthropic, one xAI, one company that defines that new infrastructure layer for intelligence, like how AWS defined cloud or Google defined search.
Right, the category king.
Exactly. And when that happens, the payoff isn't just 10x or 100x money back, it's societal level impact. It reshapes economies, changes daily life, creates entirely new industries. That's the kind of home run that echoes for generations. That's the prize he's really playing for.
Which is why, when you boil it down, this isn't just a financial play for him, it's a legacy play.
Absolutely.
It's not just buying shares hoping for an exit. He's staking this huge, undeniable claim on the foundation of the future itself.
Yeah.
He wants the 16.6 to go down in history, not just as another successful VC firm, but as the firm. The one that funded the next big leap, sure, but also the one that believed in it, championed it, pushed it forward when it wasn't cool or obvious or safe, before the mainstream got it.
So he's not diversifying to minimize risk like standard investing wisdom tells you to. He's concentrating his firepower for maximum impact, to make a statement. And here's the ultimate paradox, the kind of brilliant endgame. Even if the current AI hype bubble bursts, even if the timelines slip, even if some early applications disappoint, Andreessen still wins.
How does he still win? Explain that.
Because he has already fundamentally shifted the direction of capital. He's already changed the conversation. He's already put everyone on notice, investors, founders, the whole world, that in this new era, boldness isn't optional anymore. It's required if you want to shape what's next. He's made sitting on the sidelines look like the riskiest move of all.
Huh. So it's like the act itself changed the game, regardless of the outcome of the individual bets.
Pretty much. Think about it. Most VCs are terrified of being publicly wrong, making a bad call that hurts their reputation, their track record. Marc Andreessen's fear seems to be the complete opposite. He fears being silent when he believes conviction is demanded. So while everyone else is carefully hedging, spreading bets, he makes one, all in. Not because it's safe, but because he believes, down to his core, that it matters. On a massive civilization-level scale. Lessons and takeaway.
So when you really get down to it, Marc Andreessen didn't just make a $20 billion investment in AI. He made this huge, unavoidable statement, a statement about how you navigate these moments of radical change. In an industry obsessed with managing risk, he chose massive risk exposure. In a culture drowning in data, demanding metrics for everything, he chose pure belief. Conviction. And in a moment filled with fear, uncertainty, endless debate, he chose absolute clarity.
Yeah, for him, it's clearly not just about being right this year or next year, or even about the immediate financial payoff. It's this fundamental refusal to just stand by while the future is being written by others. While everyone else waits for market signals or regulators to give the okay, Andreessen speaks first. Loudly, unapologetically. And he uses that $20 billion like a giant exclamation point. His goal isn't just to follow trends or even set them. It feels like he's trying to literally drag the world forward, force progress, even if it kicks and screams.
And that maybe is the real lesson here for you, listening right now. The takeaway from this dive into Andreessen's world. In these times of deep uncertainty, when everything feels like it's shifting, maybe the most valuable thing you can have isn't the perfect spreadsheet. It's not the bulletproof safety net. It's not waiting for everyone else to agree. It's just conviction, pure, unshakable conviction.
And that kind of conviction, it's really rare today, almost an anomaly in this cautious data-first world. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable because it flies right in the face of conventional wisdom, of prudent calculation. But it's exactly that kind of bold, single-minded belief that actually shapes eras, not just quarterly results or short-term market cycles, eras. And look, whether Marc Andreessen turns out to be way too early or somehow completely wrong, or as a growing number in the valley now, suspect absolutely terrifyingly right, one thing's for sure, he won't be forgotten. His impact is already baked into the future, whatever it looks like. Outro.
So now, we turn the question over to you. If you had $20 billion Just imagine that for a second. How would you bet it? Would you put it on a technology that might genuinely change everything? Or maybe one that could just fizzle out? Would you follow the numbers, the hard data, the proven strategies for managing risk? Or would you follow your belief, your gut feeling about where the world is really going, even if it seems illogical right now? Because Marc Andreessen, with this incredible wager, he's kind of reminded us all of something important about navigating these times. Sometimes the boldest move isn't actually reckless. Sometimes, maybe, it's the only honest one you can make. If this deep dive sparks something in you, maybe doubt, maybe curiosity, maybe even some inspiration, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Think about it. Does AI really deserve this level of conviction? Or is this just another tech bubble waiting to pop? And if you're the kind of person who likes thinking 5 years out, who wants more than just information, who wants real understanding, then make sure you join us for our next deep dive. Because here we don't just talk about success stories.
We try to understand the people bold enough to write them in the first place. We'll see you next time.